So, the Combine. Everyone knows their soldiers, their technology, their oppressive rule over Earth. But there's something a lot of players don't think about: their symbols. Those sharp geometric logos included in propaganda posters that were plastered on City 17 walls. Markings stamped across the Combine vehicles and the Overwatch insignia printed on soldiers' sleeves. They're everywhere in Half-Life 2. But most of us pass them by without asking, why these shapes? Why this design? Valve didn't just throw together cool-looking logos. Every Combine symbol was deliberately designed to fit their identity. And the deeper you look, the more you see just how much thought went into it. And here's the part that gets really interesting. If you dig into the Half-Life 2 beta, you'll find a whole set of unused Combine symbols that never made it into the final game. Those cut designs give us a glimpse of how Valve experimented, how they refined the Combine's look until it became the visual language we recognize today. So today, we're not just talking lore. We're talking about Valve's design process, how the Combine's logos evolved, what they were meant to communicate, and even how some of these designs connect to Valve's other work, including the Steam logo itself. Though, we're not really going to dive into Half-Life Alyx here. I mean, the symbols in Alyx are basically extensions of what was already nailed down in Half-Life 2. Plus, I don't even have a VR headset, so we're sticking to what I can actually play. When you first step off that train in Half-Life 2, the Combine aren't just waiting with guns and scanners. They're already in your head. But how? Because you see their logos everywhere. It seems simple, really. And here's the clever part. At first glance, these marks don't look like much. Bold lines, harsh angles, perfect symmetry. Almost too plain, especially when the game is set in the messy environment that it is. But that's the trick. The Combine aren't flashy. Their identity is authoritarian minimalism. Let's take a second to see just how powerful this look really is.
Get out of here.
And here's one of the coolest little secrets. If you take the Combine's primary symbol and overlay it with the Steam logo, they almost line up. The arcs, the angles, even the circular structure, they fit together like puzzle pieces. Is that intentional? Maybe, maybe not. Valve hasn't confirmed this, but it tells us something interesting. Valve's design DNA is consistent. Viktor Antonov, the art director of Half-Life 2, he guided the design of the city to feel both grounded in Eastern European realism and alien occupation. Take this piece of concept art, for example. You've got a brutalist block of architecture representing humanity, and then at the top of it, some strange alien structure. At a distance, you can't quite read the scene. It's unsettling, but it's not fully clear what's going on. That's exactly where the logos come in. Slap a Combine symbol on that artwork, and suddenly there's no doubt. This isn't just weird sci-fi architecture. This is an occupation. And all of that leads to the big question: where did Valve actually get the inspiration for these symbols? Well, the truth is they've never said. No interviews, no concept notes, nothing that points to a single source. But if you step back, the Combine's marks echo the same visual language authoritarian regimes have used throughout history. They're not just logos, they're declarations. Now let's rewind to the Half-Life 2 beta, the infamous 2003 leak. the time when Valve was still experimenting with Combine symbols, some of which got scrapped along the way. Let's start with the main Combine emblem, the claw. We don't know for sure who first drew it, but it's likely the work of Randy Lundeen and DeMarcus Holbrook, the artists behind many of the propaganda posters we see in City 17. Now, if you compare the early design to the retail game, the claw symbol itself isn't radically different, but the style is. In the early design, it looks more like a cartoonish claw. It's almost sketch-like. By the time the final game shipped, Valve had cleaned it up into something much more geometric, and that change fits perfectly with the Combine's identity. The City 17 logo also went through a small but important tweak. In the pre-release version, it was a mix of black and bright red, of which matched with the darker tone Valve was experimenting with in the beta. In the final game though, it shifted into that orange-yellow tone. This color stands out more against the gray, concrete, and blue skies of City 17. Now the Overwatch insignia. This one did see some more change though. In the early beta builds, like in the E3 Hydra demo, you can spot an early Overwatch soldier sleeve insignia. It's lighter in contrast, differentiated, and even included things like unit numbers. And honestly, when you look at it, it almost feels like a futuristic World War I patch. But in retail, Valve simplified it down to a triangle and a circle. It's minimal and geometric, which fits all the other Combine symbols. And then we get to the synth symbols. This is the point where we can see Valve's trial and error approach. In the beta, Valve gave us Striders, dropships, and even some of the cut synth units' strange insignias. You'd see things like a mark that felt like glyphs from some unknown language, or a maroon circle with what looked like a Z or a lightning bolt on it, and those repeating 314 digits that showed up all over beta content. By release, most of those markings were dropped or radically simplified. The Strider and the gunship still has a marking, but gone are the weird shapes that did not read instantly in motion. And here's the thing, that shift makes sense. Imagine a Strider towering over you or a gunship diving across the sky. You don't have time to analyze alien runes. What you need is the immediate impression. This machine belongs to an empire. That's it. And the Combine instantly felt less like a mystery and more like organized power. In my opinion, that change might be one of the most important in the transition from beta to final. The busy glyphs made the Combine feel more alien, sure, but they also made them feel less oppressive. By stripping the symbols down, Valve tilted the Combine's identity away from incomprehensible invaders and toward colonial overlords. And that fits the Half-Life 2 story so much better. By the time Half-Life 2 shipped, Combine symbols weren't just logos, they were a brand. And Valve applied that brand everywhere. Look closely and you'll notice the consistency. Think about it. The Half-Life Lambda, the Steam gear arm, the Combine claw. Different contexts, but the same design philosophy. Logos that stay with you long after you've stopped playing. The same way real brands stay with you in everyday life. Only, instead of selling you a product, they're selling you a world. This consistency also gave Half-Life 2 a sense of longevity. The Combine symbols are over 20 years old now, but players still recognize them instantly. Even today, modders and fan artists use those same marks because they carry the same weight. The same memory of running through City 17 under surveillance. That's how you know Valve nailed the design. That level of consistency is rare in games of the early 2000s, Most games use symbols sparingly, maybe just on flags or uniforms, but Valve understood how visual repetition could build atmosphere. By the time you've played a few hours of Half-Life 2, Combine logos feel unavoidable. So why does all of this matter? Why talk about logos in a shooter game from 2004? Because the Combine symbols are a part of what makes Half-Life 2 work. They're silent storytelling. They tell you who's in charge without words, and they make the city feel occupied, colonized, and controlled. So the next time you're running through City 17 and see one of those geometric marks on a wall, don't just run past it. Remember that behind that simple logo is Valve's entire design philosophy at work. A philosophy that shaped not just the Combine, but even the platform you bought Half-Life 2 on.